question that she asked me.
Chunk of change. All right. Welcome back from lunch. I am Jared Busch, and we're going to be talking about how IT helps the business and does the business know it. Somehow, you guys might have already known about this, and I think this mic's failing. IT helps the business. Does management agree? Well, as you probably heard yesterday during our roundtable, and then today earlier when Paul was talking about finance, it all comes down to things like math. So, you know, what is the problem? Management, they just see it as an expense because management, they don't understand IT, but it's not their job to understand IT. Their job is to manage the employees, to manage the operations, or at the C level to manage the business. It's the IT department's job to manage IT. Oh, hey, we talked about that yesterday, didn't we? Managing IT is IT's job. So, I would say Paul said IT is not an expense, but it is an expense. But IT is an expense no different than your office building. You have to have a place to work. All right, whether it's at home, which is still gets tax credited out or whatever, it's still an expense to the company. Everything is an expense unless it's actually earning money. And as has been mentioned before, IT's job is to find out how to do that efficiently to make the business earn the most money for what they're paying. Historically, government stats, so take that for as much as you want to, on what they determine as IT, but historically, over the last 20 years, government stats show about 1% of revenue is spent on what they termed IT. Now, obviously that number is skewing higher in the more modern era. I mean, this is a 20-year-old stat, or it's been tracked for 20 years, and those numbers are now getting higher and higher. And they're not a hard number. Good, healthy businesses in today's market are spending 10, 20, sometimes even 50% on IT. Because IT is what makes everything work. It just comes down to what the business type is. In manufacturing, they have low IT needs. They have lots of OpEx and machines and stuff like that. So their percentages will be different. Software development company might have a lot of IT needs, aside from the developers. So, what can you do about it? Well, as we just said, the business runs on IT, but business doesn't speak IT. You guys speak IT. The managers don't understand IT. The C-levels don't understand IT. The C-levels, the presidents, they understand how to run the business, and they rely on you to tell them what's correct and efficient and put the right information out there so that they can make the decisions to run the business. And as we've said a number of times today, you have to know the math, you have to do the numbers, and it's the real numbers, as Paul was saying in his financials speech. Calculate all the things, figure out all the things so that you can make real numbers to say, okay, hey, we need software, we need this. And add it all up, divide it all out, hey, here's the actual number. This is what it really costs the business. And then the last thing is you got to know people, all right? You interact, IT, as I think was said during the roundtable, we interact with all levels of the business, from the CEO, president, to the managers, to the users, to the interns. IT deals with everybody. And if you look at those three skills up there, there's one thing in common. Anybody know what the most common thing is about that?
Knowing stuff.
They're soft skills. There's nothing technical there. You need to know how to talk to the managers. You need to know how to do math and how it relates to the software and the hardware that you're purchasing. And you have to know how to talk to people. So there's nothing even technical there. Now, all these things are based on knowing technical information. So you need to know how the servers work, or the services you're buying, or how to manage the ERP relationship to the vendor, or VMware, Veeam, or whatever. But you take that knowledge, keep it to yourself, and wrap it around the business context in terms that the managers understand, that the users understand. Well, the interns don't understand anything because they're new and you're teaching them. And that the C-levels understand. It's all soft skills. You know your skills, you know your IT, but you don't tell anybody else that. They don't need to know it, they don't want to know it. All they want to know is how does it impact my ROI, my bottom line. So what does it mean when I say learn to speak business? Well, what is it? The CEO does not care that it's Exchange 2019 running on Server 2019, R5, 6, whatever version Microsoft decides to come out with. They just care, it's my email. And this is what it's going to cost. Here's the ROI on the switch or the upgrade or the whatever. And then from the user point of view, they definitely don't care and don't need to know. All they need to know is that, okay, the icon colors are going to change, but you still get to your email by clicking on this icon. So what is it? Nobody cares. They don't care you're on Office 365 with all the latest features, or this most awesome phone system with all these things. They just need to use it, know what it is, depending on who you're talking to, whether or not you give ROI information or usability information. What will it do for us? Again, what will it do for the company from the user perspective? Oh, it's a new icon. I have to set my out of office differently, or I have to push a different button to call the operator. For the CEO, does this make us more efficient? How does this ROI impact the actual bottom line? But they don't care about the technology. They don't need to know. You don't need to tell them. And then how will it, well, that guy just said that one, how it impacts the users. Change is horrible. Anybody, upgraded Office from 2010 to 2013, all the icons went from yellow to blue. God help us. And if you've been here around long enough, you remember the change from 2003 to 2007 when they went to the ribbon. Oh my Lord, users. But it is an impact, and you need to account for that. You need to handle that. You need to be prepared to talk about it. And then what does it really cost? And I'm not even going to repeat everything Paul said. Just go watch Paul's video. Figure out, what does it cost? How much does it cost? Whether you're going to do it by department, or you're going to just do it globally for the company and average it out. Have that information ready. And then, in that real cost, when you're talking to the decision makers, because obviously the users don't care about that, the managers don't need to know about that unless you're doing departmental things. And I'm saying a number of times, I've said, ignore it. They don't need to know. Well, you need to know. You need to have the detail there. You don't tell them. But when the CEO says, what is this? You need to be there with the detail. Because that's part of the C-level's job in these conversations is, no, they don't need to know, but they're going to ask that question sometimes because that's their job. When they do that, it's basically an audit on IT. So if they trust you, they won't ask that question a lot. Why do they trust you? Because they have asked you that question, you've given the right detail, you've proven it. But you can never just skip it. Now, and as I said, but you never just give it. It's too much data, too much information. He doesn't care. How often you do this, and I'm going to go get new servers, and I'm going to get this, and well, if you've priced everything else outright and averaged your things outright, the CEO already knows that his IT department and you guys do things correctly, so he's going to trust you most of the time. But a good CEO will surprise people. I mean, you hear about this if you read, business news about people diving down and asking the question, and if you're ready for it, you answer it, and you have the detail, and you just move on. So, real numbers, make or fail the business. And this really goes back into Paul's financial. Everything costs money, even your time. And that's something that a lot of companies in the small business world try to ignore. He's my employee. This doesn't cost us anything. Wrong. Totally wrong. As I believe was mentioned earlier, what do I do to bill out my labor for IT? Well, if you're going to track it out all the way, you can do it. It just depends on where you need to go on your business. Think about an outage. As Paul was saying, how do you figure out an outage and a call? Employees that make $50,000 a year, it comes out to somebody making $23.95 an hour. All right, that doesn't even count overhead and insurance. It's usually, 1.5, 1.2, depending on the company and the location. So, how many employees do you have? Got 100? Well, that's easy. It's $2,400 an hour for downtime. Okay, no problem. Just do the math. Who's affected? Who's not affected? Can they make up that work over time, as Paul said? How many times we're going to talk about the same thing these last 2 days? But, and also, downtime isn't actually downtime. Okay, so the ERP system goes down. So what? The phones are up. You can still take calls. You take notes. Enter it into the ERP when it comes back up. So you're not actually down and losing $2,400 an hour because you're still half productive. How productive, how unproductive are the people normally? Are you actually really losing that? Because everybody knows nobody works 100% of their day. It simply does not happen. It's not possible. People are not 100% efficient. If anybody says so, they're lying. So think about those real numbers. And then when you're costing out a new system, that's what some of these points here. How much does it cost? All right, that's usually pretty easy. You got a VAR and figure out your costs. But then how much did it cost you to research all those choices? Did you add that stuff in? You better, because that's part of the cost. All your meetings to discuss it with everybody, all that time adds up. Did you add the CEO time into that cost? Make sure you do. If you're having meetings with the CEO, you better be accounting for his time in that cost and make sure he's aware of that. Usually they'll cancel meetings. And then your productivity lost to training users. Hey, the icons changed. Where do we click? Oh, hey, it's a new phone system. Instead of pushing button 5 to park a call, you push the one that actually says park. But people freak out because it's no longer the 5th button across the top. So you're going to have a cost of retraining users for software. And of course, it's much more complicated if it's a new ERP system or something like that. That cost is part of the cost to implement. You have to know those numbers when you're going in and putting in a proposal for a new solution. Those are part of the things of how much does it cost the business. And those are important to know. Otherwise, as everybody always says, well, IT's just spending all our money on our ERP, and they didn't even think about how much it costs us to have these people in here and get retrained. And now we paid $100,000 for this new ERP system, and now we're also paying salaries for the entire company for 2 weeks getting retrained. Oh my God. That's going to look bad. But by doing things like this, you're showing the business how IT is actually helping the business. You're changing that perception and taking away that, oh my God, IT's an expense mentality. And then also, of course, your ongoing administration. If it's a local system, you got to do server updates, patches, security updates, software updates, depending on the vendor agreements, things like that. Or if it's hosted, just your management time, so it's a lot less. But you need to account for that. What is that ongoing expense? Be ready for that as part of calculating your ROI and your other pieces of the puzzle. As we talked about the lifespan in Paul's, when I brought up the OPEX CAPEX question, nothing is guaranteed. If it's all CapEx, also usually your downtimes are a little bit different because they don't care as much. They've handled it. It's being written off every year as things depreciate down, and we're just going to handle our updates and get it all pushed through. It's all part of our CapEx and our tax write-offs here. Or if it's, when it's in the OpEx category, it's like, we're paying this monthly and this is written off, the write-offs are different and we need to have this back up and running because we're still paying we're not getting any discounts because it's not been down for 4 nines or instead of 5 nines or whatever. So you have to think about that. And then the last piece of that is, what about your disaster recovery? Don't forget to add those costs in. I have to have my phones up all the time. So I need HA. It's something you buy, it's not something you do. No, I'm just kidding, it's just to get somebody to smile. No, HA is definitely something you do. You have to plan ahead, but you know what, it's expensive. It costs money. And you need to show that. If they say they need it, you need to make sure they know what the cost is going to be. Let them make the decision based on the cost. Show them how it really works. And then, as we talked about in the downtime, they can probably actually afford it because it's only $2,400 an hour for our downtime for the company. And that thing costs $50,000. And our expected failure rate is once in 5 years. I don't think we need to pay for that. Our downtime's not going to be more than $50,000. And then the interacting with all levels of the business. All right? As I said, you talk to the interns, you talk to the CEO, you talk to the users, you talk to the managers. Everybody needs talked to differently. And not only that, depending on your environment, family business, big enterprise, how you even talk to those people is different. A lot of small businesses, family businesses, you go talk to the president, have beers with him, bullshit. In a lot of enterprises, you don't do that. You go in, you have an interaction, the CEO's time is expensive, he knows it, and you give the information, you move back out. So know not only who you're talking to, but the environment of who you're talking to in. And then, your employees, your managers, people like that. All right? I've said interns a few times. So how do you interact with your interns? You don't treat them like employees. They don't know anything. Recent threads in ML where, because NTG's been teaching some people and some interns things. And somebody complained about all these threads popping up and all the questions. But look at those questions. It's not because the people are stupid. It's simply they don't know. So how do you handle that? Well, you write simple, clear, very concise instructions that are given to interns. Depending on your level of users, you might use them for them too. But your users are the people who have already been using your systems for days, weeks, whatever. We're not talking new level training or new employee training. So how you deal with them, well, that gets into the conversation. I think somebody said yesterday, I don't remember who. You go out to the shop floor because you're IT, you're everywhere. Hey, how's this machine running for you? The computer that interfaces with the lathe or whatever. How's this doing? Are we doing okay? Oh yeah, it was Paul with the 6 clicks for 2 days. Yeah. You talk to them because they don't bring it to you, but you go talk to those people, find out their job, and then figure out how to help them. Because that's your job. You're managing the people. You're managing the expectations. You're managing the software. You're managing IT. But you have to learn all the parts of it because you can't fix a problem if you don't know about a problem. So that's why IT is everywhere. IT talks to everybody. And you make that part of how you do your job and do it well. I've got a client where I'm doing a big phone system migration for. And when I'm in their office, I'm sitting next to their IT staff. And it's a wide open environment. People just wander in with their laptop. Oh, this is not working. They drop it off and come back in 10 minutes and it's been re-imaged. It's just the way they're operating. Yeah, they have a ticketing system. They put it in, they say come down at this time, they come down, they drop it off, they come back 10 minutes later and it's done. because they handled that process over time, learning that this is how it works best for our employees. All right? You just find out in your organization how to handle that. All right? And as I already said, when you're talking to the managers or the CEO, how you talk to them depends on the environment. In your family business, you'll talk to them, you'll have a chit-chat session, maybe bullshit for a while, then get to the point, and then move on. Whereas the CEO in a large organization, you come straight to the point, give him the ROI, give him the detail if he surprises and asks for it, and then you move on. And then like the managers. Well, the manager's needs are totally different than the users or the CEO. The managers don't care about the cost. They don't care how to use it. They care how to make their employees look better so that their bottom line and their budgets work. So if the users say their process is one way, but then when you talk to the manager and the managers say my processes are this way and my users just can't do it because it doesn't work, that's where IT can fix it. IT can find a new process, make a new script, and change a process to help management get their point. So everything you do is a discussion with somebody. And that's why I say you have to talk to it. It's a soft skill. And good IT, we know the tech. So we know the solutions and how to look them up to their problem. They don't. So that's why we have to talk to them to learn that. So, because nobody's talking back, I'm already pretty much done here. What are our takeaways? And we've had so many conversations about a lot of this already. What is the takeaway? You speak business, you think money, and you understand your users. So, I don't have a lot more to say because everything was already been talked about with finance and this and that and the next thing. But it is a point that I cannot drive home enough in IT to get away from that, oh my gosh, IT is such a sinkhole of my money. They're costing us so much money. What do I do about it? Well, that's because you're not talking to them in a way they understand. You're not talking finance. You're not talking, ROI. You're not talking to the way the business needs to know about it in order to get your job done. Does the business need to get an MSP? Does the business need to get something else? What do you do? What do you need to do? We've had examples mentioned over time, so I don't know what else to bring up, but does anybody have a question, point, discussion? What do you want to do? Go ahead.
If you're in a situation like I am, where I am 3 layers of management away from decision makers, and then an additional 2 layers of management away from people that can actually spend money, when you can identify something that there's a better way to do X, when you're so far away from those decision makers to where I can't go contact CEO and say do this, what's a good way of trying to go up through the chain to get to a decision maker to say consider this?
All right, so the question was, in case the mic didn't pick it up, how do you get around if you're too far away from the decision makers? You're in a larger organization and there's 3 levels of managers over you and then 2 more before you get to the C levels. How do you get around that? Well, first of all, you start off by doing everything we just said. You make a good plan, you make a good ROI, you get all these details. And your management, or the person as far as you're allowed to talk to, you take it as high as you can, going through your command chain always. But if you have this kind of information and you're speaking business, it's going to go up. I mean, I'll tell you that part right now. I've not been in very many businesses where that information doesn't simply go up the chain because it makes sense. It's when things don't understand that you get stuck. Mm-hmm. So, assuming you're doing it good and doing it well, you're going to give that to your manager. And your manager's going to give it to his manager, and up the chain. But follow up, for one. Make sure you follow up. Hey, boss, that message I sent you the other day, were you able to get forwarded? Oh, yeah. Because your boss went, oh, that's a great idea. And this will work great for our company. And so he'll send it up. But see, because you're that many levels down, you don't know the business direction. Exactly. So you're just thinking, oh, I had a great idea, and they just fucking ignored me. It might turn out that your idea went all the way to the CEO and you don't know it, but you have to follow up to find that out. And then you may or may not be able to get the answer, but you should ask, hey, how'd it go? And if the boss doesn't tell you, or he doesn't know, ask him to find out. All right? Because if it was really a good idea, people don't mind responding. Oh, it was a great idea, but, you know, and then when it gets to the level of somebody who does know the business direction, they'll be able to turn around and say, yes, it was a good idea, except we're looking to pivot our business in 3 months, and it's not going to work. And you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you're at that kind of level, that's where you want to do. Now, if you're stuck in a bad management situation, there's not a lot you can do. Your boss says it's a great idea, but he doesn't forward it anyway. Yeah, you're just pretty much shut out of luck. Okay?
Or they take credit for it.
Or they take credit for it.
That's good.
But
yeah, whether or not you get credit is a whole nother question, but your idea may well be adopted.
correct.
Document.
Right, always document, and then don't even fight it. If, for example, if you don't get credit for it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You've got documentation. Update your resume. Get the fuck out. Show your documentation to the next guy, because that kind of stuff don't go on your resume. But once you're in deep in interviews, and I tried to implement this, it failed. When you have a conversation during an interview, and have proof of that, and then that could help you at that stage. Because if you're in a situation where somebody else takes credit for something you did, you want to be leaving. It's not a place for you. No matter, and so you need to find a new place to work. I tell people that all the time. You just need to get out. I've been in those situations, and I did get out. It took me 2 years, well, a year and a half after I realized it was a really crap-ass place to be, to get out, but I got out. And it worked. I used those kind of things. I built structures. I did things that turned into things in my interview that got me the job that I got on my next job, and worked out well, even if there's no credit, nobody ever talks or knows what I did at the other place. So what Abasi just said was, one good thing to know is know how to use Excel, so that when you're tracking your numbers, don't just be the random Excel guy or your IT guy, you plug a couple numbers in, whatever. When you're doing this math and figuring things out, yeah, use Excel. Put all the data in there, track it down, know your proposal, know what happened, and then know what you actually bid, and then know what it turned into, a couple years down the line. You track all that information, that makes you better, and then the next time you quote out the next email system, you'll have better choices, better solutions, and be able to do it better. So yeah, tracking it and using Excel, using the tools you have. Because you are IT, you do know technological stuff. Hey, I can use a computer. That's what IT does, right? Now, but you should know how to use the things and track it down, whatever system it is.
Well, you also have to, and we brought this up before too, but understanding the motivations of the business is an important aspect. Just a couple of quick examples on that.
You gonna come down here and talk?
Yeah, I can talk to you if you want. Why, thank you, sir. Understanding the motivations of the business. For example, there was a hotel chain that was running around, and what they would do is they buy these, waning hotels, that were in these communities, and they would come in and they would revamp the hotel. They put in new beds, they put in new carpet, they put in luxury sheets, they put in luxury towels. It would just be a beautiful, beautiful hotel. People would love to stay there, and they'd do it at a good price, and they'd run it that way, generally at cost or even sometimes below cost, for 18 months to 2 years. Then they would keep the same room rate, but they pull all the luxury stuff. So now instead of a full-blown breakfast, it's a continental breakfast. The sheets aren't as nice, the towels aren't as nice, the soap's not as nice, and they've done and reduced all of their costs to almost nothing. The rooms aren't as clean, they don't have as many hotel staff, they don't get the concierge service they used to get, but the ratings that the hotel was getting prior to that are very high. Great service, great breakfast, great sheets, great towels. It takes a while for those reviews to come in, for that rating to drop. what were they doing? They were increasing the rating of the hotel, then they were reducing the cost so that they could show the profitability was very, very high, then they'd sell it. So they'd have rooms that are rented out, they have great rooms at a great rate and great profitability, and they could sell that for way more than they paid for it. That's a serious motivation. That was a company culture. That's what they went after. So if you're looking at from a regular business, from an IT business, what's their motivation? Are they trying to increase costs? Are they going to sell the business? Is that their primary goal? Are they looking to IPO? Have they already done that? Are they trying to perform for their shareholders? What's the motivation of the business? And like Nick said, or Eddie said, sometimes you don't get that far. Sometimes you don't know that information. But it can help you if you can understand the motivation of the business. If you can get to that information, it can be very, very helpful in designing how you're going to approach IT. If they want to reduce costs and not spend any money, you can reduce efficiency a lot and save them a whole ton of money. You don't have to replace those desktops. You don't have to replace those laptops. Your service costs might go up for them, but your outlay costs are going to go way, way down.
Yeah. So, anybody else? Questions? Discussion about business? Does this not make any sense at all? Do you think, oh my God, you're just way off base. This does not apply to IT. That's the point.
Okay.
What does that have to do with VoIP?
Thank you.
Well played.
Thank you very much.